What's up, everyone? Hey, guys. We wanted to jump on today. I got Podcast Dave with me, and we were looking about just talking about some news and topics. But the biggest thing was basically getting Q&As for you guys. There's a lot going on, not really deciding like what the main event is for International Fight Week, and there's so much to talk about. People talking about who's the real GOAT of the featherweight division? Is it Aldo? Is it Ilya? Is it Connor? There's so many guys. I mean, obviously Volk and Max in that mix. So there's a lot of things to really talk about, but I wanted to kind of give you guys an opportunity to shoot a bunch of questions at me and let me know what you guys think. So that's something that we were, talking about doing, and we've been talking about it for the last 2 weeks. And I thought maybe this would be no better time than do it right now. So if you guys have some questions, drop them down there. Those of you guys that are members, you guys can subscribe to our channel. You also become a member of our channel. It's a $4.99 membership or $1.99 membership. And what I do is we do giveaways, whether it's like old UFC apparel, element, giveaways, hydration company, and obviously any type of shirts and stuff that we have available. We end up giving those away by the end of the month. So we looking forward to talking with you guys today. So go ahead and drop some questions in here, and let's go ahead and get into a topic here, Dave, while you guys tally up the questions. What's up, Dave? What you got? Oh, okay. So I'll have to repeat what you're saying because your audio is not connected on this. All right, sounds good. He's asking about the Drickus situation. It sounds like Drickus is going to be available to fight. He said there was never a contract sent over to him. He said that his shin is not broken. He just was kicking back, laughing when he was reading all the comments on it. That everything seems to be okay. So if that's the case, then we may potentially still see that fight. Um, I think it really just comes down to it's going to be obviously in Las Vegas. The visa work for Chimaev, can he get it done? It sounds like that's the fight they really want to make. But I think on the back burner, they're making sure that Islam is ready for that fight to fight either Ilia Topuria or potentially going up and getting ready for his chance to fight for the title at 170. I believe it's just been pretty clear that if Bilal wins the title, that Islam will not fight him. He'll stay at 155. And if that's the case, he'll end up fighting Ilia Topuria, who has been promised. And I say that in quotations because we've heard promised before by the UFC that he'll end up getting a title shot, which it sounds like they are headed in that direction. You got to capitalize on making that money at the moment that it's hot. And right now, Ilia Topuria is probably number one, number two guy in the sport right now in terms of being hot, and he's doing a great job of promoting himself. He's kind of taken the Connor approach. He won the featherweight division, defended it, and then basically won it, defended it, and then turned around. I was like, I'm out. I mean, at least he defended it. Connor never defended it. So he won it. He defended it against Max, and then beats Max, and now is headed up to 155, wants to challenge for the title there, and wants to see if he can kind of duplicate what Connor did. And let's be honest, he's such a good boxer, but in a different type of way than Conor McGregor. Could we see the UFC do what they did with the Floyd Mayweather and Connor thing? Can they see if they be able to replicate that? And it kind of, we're in this interesting like territory right now where you've got TKO boxing or that Zuffa boxing, whatever you want to call it. You've got that right now about to launch, and you've got someone like Ilia Topuria that if he can go out and put away Islam Makhachev, if he can do that, now that I guess that opens up a lot of fights to be available. I mean, do you see a Gervonta Davis and Ilia Topuria fight? Do you are there fights out there to be had? A Ryan Garcia fight with him? I mean, there's fights out there to be had. You just you don't know, but I'm sure they can come to some sort of agreement and have another huge pay-per-view. Could it lean in that direction? I guess that's a question that I wouldn't know or have the answer to, but that's something to maybe start thinking about. And Islam being a good friend of mine, someone I trained with for a long time, fantastic fighter, pound for pound, number one guy right now in the world. I'm just throwing out what ifs right now. This is a strictly like a what if situation. Is what if he does come out and he is able to get the knockout against Islam? If that's the case, then where does that take him? What will he do? I mean, he's even talked about being a 3-division champion. Does he defend the lightweight title, or does he go up to 170 and try and capture that one? Or does he take a little venture off into the boxing realm and try to make money doing that? The UFC being able to co-promote, or within their own organization of TKO Box? Does he headline that against somebody else in the boxing world, whether it's Ryan Garcia, whether it's Gervonta Davis, who knows? Anywhere along those lines, who knows? I'm just thinking out loud for you guys. So if you guys have questions, go ahead and throw out some questions here and let me know. If you guys hear me go quiet for a second, it's probably because Dave and I are talking and you guys can't hear his mic. But simply put, there's a lot of conversation to be had, I think, in that whole situation. Back to the Drickus situation, though. I don't think he's gonna fight. I do think he's gonna end up fighting. It's gonna be him and Chimaev. I think being able to get that done, I think it's gonna come down to visa issues, which it sounds like they may have got that all sorted out and worked out. And I'm looking forward to seeing that fight. Drickus wanted that fight. Chimaev wants the title shot. And I still don't, and I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, obviously, right now, I'm not a big supporter of Chimaev. I just feel like that there's not a big enough sample size against top level competition to say that he deserves a title shot. Now, I know, like I just said a second ago, strike while the iron's hot. And right now, Chimaev is pretty much one of the biggest names in the sport. And people are clamoring to see him and see what he can do against the champion, against Drickus. So I'm looking forward to seeing if they're able to match that fight up. But if just say Drickus is not able to make it, you guys throw me down some in the comments. Throw me down. Let me know who you guys are thinking. Like, who supplements that fight? Like, Imavov right now is number one, but people keep saying Kai Bahalo because Kai Bahalo has put his name in the hat. Closed mouths don't get fed. I think Imavov is just sitting there going, let me let the tough guys fight, and I'll sit and see how that settles. And after they're done settling in the background, I'll see if I can slide in for the title shot, or maybe they look like crap and I can slide in, or go ahead and let them fight. And then I just go and got to fight the winner of whoever wins that fight. But who knows? It says no question. It says wary traveler. It says no question. I'm just praying for the downfall of the PFL, and Eblen and Dakota get in the UFC. There's a lot more than Eblen and Dakota that I would like to see come over to the UFC. Now, look, I've always, because of my relationship with Strikeforce back in the day, my relationship with Scott Coker, my relationship with Bellator, also due to the relationship I had with Scott Coker. That being said, I've always been an advocate of, like, these fighters should stay where they were homegrown and help build up that promotion. But I also had a competent promoter. And that was, to me, that Scott Coker had built up Strikeforce. I felt confident in him. He had been building up Strikeforce when it was kickboxing. He had co-promoted with K1 and ran the K1 USA promotion. So I knew he was good. I had fought kickboxing for him before I started fighting MMA for him. So I knew all of these things beforehand. And I felt confident that my career was going in the right direction. I was getting paid well. Most cases getting paid more than a lot of the UFC fighters, unless they were the champ. And so that being said, I've been an advocate of them staying where they're at. I said, why do I need to leave when I can have fighters come to me and fight me in my organization? That was always me. But like anything in the world, times have changed. No one sits at the top for forever. That being said, like, times have changed right now. And the PFL they either need to bring on a promoter and keep Don Davis and Pete Murray and those guys as financial guys that can raise money and cap, and let somebody come in and be the promoter. I just don't know if they're willing to relinquish their reins and let someone else run it as a promotion. Because, look, I believe they do a great job of raising money, but I think they need someone to come in and actually run and promote the actual organization, because they're not doing a great job. Like, I can honestly say, like, just keep a mic away from Don Davis. Just, it doesn't make any sense to keep putting Mike in front of him, because people are just going to keep nitpicking him and taking jabs at him and saying, well, you said this and you said that. It's done, man. You've lost the battle in front of the microphone, and just let it go. And so I think that's the problem that most people are having, I think, with the PFL. We would love to see Dakota come over. I think that she should. That being said, because they've only got a handful of females that are still fighting, and she just won the tournament there, which was all of their top fighters that they had there. So I don't see a reason for her to stay. But other fighters that are there's options for them to still fight and make a significant amount of money and be happy. But they've got to fight, though. That's the problem you're having with the PFL. The PFL is not putting these not keeping these fighters active. And how do you make money if you can't stay active? And that's one of the biggest problems, I think, right now with the PFL. Not one of the biggest. That's probably the biggest problem, is if you can't keep your stars busy, then it's hard to continue to build your promotion. I think what maybe I'm wrong, you guys can maybe hit me up in the comments and let me know. is I think what made Strikeforce so successful is you had your top tier guys, but you saw them every fight card. Like there was always somebody on that fight card that was a pretty prominent name in the sport. Nick Diaz, Paul Daly, Dan Henderson, Robbie Lawler, Gilbert, myself. Like you had guys that were there that they were always on the main cards. And Paul Bonatello, who fought for the UFC title, like he was on Fedor, Verdum. I mean, these guys that most of them had names already going into Strikeforce, and some of them that didn't built their name. Luke Rockhold, DC, those guys built their name in Strikeforce, but they ended up becoming champions. They ended up becoming stars, and later on going on to be UFC champions. So all that being said, I think that's the kind of format that they're going to have to follow after. Is you have to have those fighters be consistent and be active. And these fights that you guys are having in your champion series, those fighters need to be as active as possible. They've got to be able to fight, and that whole card should be your best fighters. You should always have a Patchy Mix on there and a Johnny Eblen on there and whoever else, other ones that are your Nemkov. You should always have those guys on there. Those guys are the ones kind of carrying your brand right now. And it's unfortunate that they're not being active enough or being able to be active enough to not just make a living, but also to keep their fan base intrigued with your promotion. That's really what it comes down to. If you guys have any other questions, go ahead and pop them off in here. But let me see what we got here. The Granite 617, John Jones, Humbles, Aspinall, Patchy Mix, Usman from Bellator are going to the UFC. Look, Usman, I could see obviously going to the UFC. Patchy Mix, he's got a little bit of ways to go. I think there's going to be some battle with Patchy. They've got a pretty good roster of 135 pounders, and I know that Patchy's fought majority of them, and he's beat all of them. But it just comes down to that. That's a division that they don't want to continue to spruce up the UFC, because that's the best division right now to me in the sport in terms of talent wise. The ability, all of those things, and exciting fights. I mean, that whole division, you have Marab, you've got Usman or Umar, you've got Patchy Mix, you've got Rafael Stotts, you've got Danny Sabatella, you've got Corey Sandhagen, you've got a litany of just top level world-class fighters. Peter Yan. I mean, like there's that whole thing is just put together beautifully. And so I don't think that the UFC, or not UFC, but PFL wants to allow their 135-pound division to head on over there and even make that division even stronger. Because realistically, I think, with Ilya kind of was keeping 45, around with Volk and with Max. Now Max going up, and what's his name? No. Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega also now potentially going up to 55. Like you're losing a lot of your top guys. You have Max, Ilya, and Ortega. Three of your top five guys are going up now to the lightweight division. So that lightweight division is going to look differently in another year. I can't tell you how much differently, but it's going to look differently in another year. In the 145-pound division, it's going to kind of plateau a little bit. I mean, you've got some talent that's there, but it's going to plateau a little bit because they got to insert some more people, which they're doing. You got Patricio Pitbull, who didn't look great his last fight. I get it. Yair is a very difficult fighter to fight. I'm sorry. The movement, the head, the speed, the slickness, just how good he is on the feet. It's very difficult to deal with. Aaron Pico coming in. That's going to be a great addition at 145. But they're going to insert themselves in there, and I think you're going to see some things kind of shake out in that division. So let's go ahead and take another one. Oh, oops, I'm missing here. I don't know why it's not scanning up, but yeah, we No, go ahead and read it for me there, Dave. Oh yeah. So who said that? 9:15 a.m. So Corey Anderson and Nemkov easily cracked the 205 in the top five. Look, Nemkov now is at heavyweight, so there's no doubt in my mind that he cracks the top five. There's no doubt. Now, if he was to try to take the weight off and go down to 205, I don't know how that would affect him physically, and so I'd be a little hesitant to say that he would be in there. I think that he would, if he was able to take his weight down slowly and not really truly drain his body. But he likes being at heavyweight. He's a faster fighter. Great kicks. Corey Anderson, for sure. No doubt right now, the 205-pound division, to me, is probably the weakest division in the sport. across the board. I mean, in PFL, it's weak. Obviously, in one, it's completely it's non-existent. And the same thing with the UFC. It's a weak division, which is crazy because it's the sport was built off of that division. It started off basically with Frank Shamrock and then Tito Ortiz. And then when Tito Ortiz and then Randy Couture, Chuck Liddell, and just the fighters in that division have carried the sport. They had the name recognition, the mohawk and the tattoo, the dyed blonde hair, the Captain America. I mean, the sport was built off of the 205-pound division, but it is now the weakest division, I think, in the sport. And I can't tell you why. I have no idea why. Maybe because John Jones was so dominant. A lot of fighters were like, screw it, I'm going to 185 or I'm going to heavyweight. I'm not taking my chances. I'm never going to be champion there. That'll all change now that John's basically working his way out of the sport. Do you see any other ones there, Dave? Okay. Who does Chandler fight? I think he fights the older guy, possibly like an RDA. I think RDA though wants to stay at the 150 or the 170-pound division. But I think at this point in Chandler's career, I don't think he really cares if it's 170 or 155. I think he's kind of just got to take whatever fights are put in front of him right now for the amount of money they're paying him. Um, I think Ruffy would be a horrible fight for him. Just it would be disgusting. I mean, you guys are trying to get him killed. That's just something I don't think that would be a good fight for him. Um, Outside of that, I mean, you've got that talk. Yeah, there you go, Scott. There you go. In the Ruffy fight. Let's go ahead and talk. It says, Josh, man, I feel like Big John talks way too much, and I feel like he's nah. I mean, let's look. John does a great job, man. Big John helps me, and we feed off each other, man. We love doing the podcast together, so it's been one of those things where we enjoy doing it, and that's a respect thing. We enjoy listening to each other's conversation. He's got so much knowledge, man. I love soaking it up. In the Granite 617, I think Josh would say he enjoyed working for both the same. Dana didn't do Josh wrong I'm pretty sure. No, Dana didn't do me wrong, but the whole title shop thing was it kind of rubbed me wrong because it was both times, back in 2004, I was supposed to fight for the title against Yves Edward. That fight didn't happen. And then the same thing, I was supposed to fight Anthony Pettis for the title. That didn't happen. Basically, it was very frustrating, I think, to be there and both times, have it dangled in front of you, be offered it, and then all of a sudden it being taken away. As a fighter, you can understand how frustrating that could be. So it's one of those things. Guys, go ahead and drop us some more questions if you guys want, and I'll go ahead and try to get to them. Bro, we gotta turn your mic on for the next live, bro. This is funny. You're hilarious. Look, who said that? Okay, Otto Chama. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna get the 5-round main event again. I'd love to. It was a lot of work for Podcast Dave to put that whole series together, and I know how much time and effort he put into it every single time. And I would agree that Big John probably got tired of me 10-8 him every time we had the conversation, especially when Dave did the faces, and we were going back and forth. It was awesome, man. We had to get John to hold his head still. He just kept doing it. Yeah. It was doing the neck roll, and the face is hard to line up when you're moving. So, oh, look at this weary traveler. Don't slander my goat, Big John. Look, I'm not slandering the goat, buddy. He's amazing, man. I love what we've built, and this is a great. I have a great time. Oh, I didn't look at the other. I'm also going to be taking questions from the IG feed, so I'm going to go ahead and take a look at it now, and we will go there. Let's take a look. I got to turn this volume down. Dun, dun, dun. Go ahead and hit me up with so many questions. MMA needs more promotions to give fighters more of an option because the UFC doesn't pay their top fighters enough. Look, I would agree with you 100% that we do need more fight promotions. 100% we need more fight promotions. That being said, the UFC pays the top fighters a pretty nice paycheck. It's the lower level ones that are not getting paid a lot, but also too, they've got to earn their way. I understand that. I'm not taking a jab at that either. These guys are making way more than I was making when I was ranked number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 in the world. So all those things being said, it's kind of funny that we're saying that fighters are not making enough. Now, I did notice this thing the other day that I talked about on my other podcast, Bad Takes. and my buddy Angelo, is that we talked about their UFC fighters are getting 14.5% of the $1.4 billion that they made last year. 14.5% is definitely too low, but there needs to be some sort of they've got to reconcile that kind of money. It's got to get up to the 19%. I would say up to the 21%. Somewhere in that 19 to 21 would be nice, but you can only get that done if you have some sort of fighters union or for fighters association. That being said, it's going to take somebody that's relevant, and not just one. It's going to take all your champions. And I think the way you do that is you leverage what you guys have. And they're like, oh, well, the top tier fighters won't do it because they're the ones making the money right now. But I want to remind top tier fighters, all the ones that have the championship belts right now, right? Whether it's John Jones, Tom Aspinall, Ilya, Islam. I know you guys don't want to rock the boat, but you guys can make it better for everybody else that's below you guys that is coming up. Because at the end of the day, you will not be champion forever. And sure, you've made your money. You're making good money right now as we speak. But there's been times where fighters have won one or two. They've defended their title once or twice, and they think, oh, man, this is the way it's going to always be. But we just saw with Izzy, who made a ton of money, doing a great job promoting the sport. He's going to continue to make good money, but he's not going to make championship money. And so had he went ahead along with all the other champions and just said, hey, we're not going to fight for 3 months until we get this 19 to 20%, 21%. And baby steps. I know everyone's going to talk about the NBA and say, hey, we deserve 50%. No, guys. That's not how this works. The NBA has been around for a long time. The NFL's been around forever. That's not how this is going to work. Okay, let's go baby steps. Let's understand. Like we had to crawl before you guys could walk. You guys could walk. And now, right now, you guys are talking about, you guys are not even getting ready to jump. You guys are just evenly just okay with collecting your check. Us, we were making pennies on the dollar. Like you guys are making up significantly more than I was making. I was ranked number 1 in the world when I fought Yves Edwards. I made $8,000 because I lost the fight. That's it. And I thought I was rich. I was out at the club that night. I was dropping thousands, literally like probably half my check. And it was like, but it just, was out there having a great time. It goes away so fast. And these fighters, I've only been retired, I think, for about 6 years, 5-6 years now. And you realize like it all dries up quick, man. You got to have other avenues to make money. You've got to invest into whether gyms, you got to invest in whatever it is you're passionate about, food, hot sauce, whatever, something along those lines, an energy drink. I don't know, whatever it is you feel passionate about, you should start looking to get into that towards the end of your career and put all your energy into that as much as you put your energy into fighting. And I think that's what people have to remember. If you're the champions, if you really want to make a splash, what you guys need to do is you guys need to basically hold out for 3 months or until they come to the table and say, okay, look, let's jump it to 19% or 20% or 21%, because in their contracts with their networks that they have to fight. They have to fight champions, and the champions are the ones that are going to affect this sport, not the guys on the bottom and not the ones that used to be champions. GSPs, Randy Couture's, Chuck Liddell's, they're not going to have any impact on anything the UFC does when it comes to the finances. They had their chance. They had their opportunity to do it, and they didn't do it. They've got to do it you've got to do it while you're the champion, because the deal with the ESPN is that you will have title fights on these cards, whether they're pay-per-view, whatever it is, you'll have title fights. And if your champions are not fighting, that's a bad look. That's a really bad look. And any network's going to have a hard time justifying, why are you guys paying them peanuts? Why are you allowing a platform or allowing a promotion on your platform that's paying their fighters and their athletes peanut wages? And so it's going to have to come down from the top. So that's, I think, what we got to do. Also, too, like you said, having more competitions, more promotions to go ahead and do that. But it's such a hard industry to get into. It's so hard because what happens is we get a lot of casual fans, but we also get a lot of reporters who constantly bag on the smaller promotions. I think PFL, to me, if you were to, like I said earlier, if you were to move Don Davis and Pete Murray into just the finance of the cap raising, just the people that raised the money for the show, and you put in a real promoter there that loved watching the sport and loved the fighters and knew that that's what makes this whole thing drive is, pushing your athletes, man, I think it'd be a huge deal. So those are the things that I think they need to make adjustments on. What else you got for me, Dave? Okay. Let me take a look at those. Dun, dun, dun. Oh. Okay. I see those. Okay, so there is one right now. I think did they just announce this? The Holloway, yeah, literally right now. So Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier 3. It sounds like it will be. It doesn't say. It says for the BMFL title or BMF title, the lightweight bout. All right, at 318. It sounds like that will be the main event, which is justified. I should say justified because they're doing this for Dustin. It's his retirement fight. He's made it very clear. This is my last fight, and legends only, baby. And I can't think of a better legend than for him to fight than Max Holloway. Max coming off a loss, Dustin coming off a loss. I mean, not that they're looking to get Dustin another win, but Dustin's going to have to earn that win, obviously, so he can, leave on top, with a win and with the BMF title. That'd be nice too. And Max will be around for I think quite a bit longer. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this whole thing shakes out. But that's a fantastic fight. Fantastic fight. So I'm looking forward to that whole thing as well. I think if you take a look at their first two fights, they've changed so much since then. And Dustin also making such a significant run in the lightweight division. And I think Max showing that he's got the skill to be at 155, and not just the skill, but he's got the ability to carry the power as well as take the shots of the guys that are bigger when he fought Justin Gaethje. And now having to fight Dustin for the third time, second time now at lightweight, though. The first time he didn't put the weight on properly. He didn't have an opportunity to put that weight on properly. And now he's going to be fighting Dustin with the weight on properly. I'm looking forward to seeing that whole situation break down and break out and see exactly how it goes. And it's going to be one of those, it's going to be sad to see Dustin go. It's going to be sad to see him fight. But I was talking about this with who's coming up. Anthony Smith is having his retirement fight. And I said, I want to see how Anthony Smith approaches his retirement fight, because Dustin Poirier is going to approach his fight maybe similar, maybe different. But I think there's that sense of let it all go. There's that, like, I'm not like, I have no concerns. I'm free. Doesn't matter what happens today. Sure, I'd love to win. I'm going to work my ass off to win. You're going to try, obviously, a lot harder to get that extra push and do more because it's your last time. You want to go out, on top. And I just feel like that sense of relief, I think, for fighters that go into the cage knowing already and have announced it and said, this is it, I'm done. Those type of fighters, I think, are extremely dangerous. So if you're looking at like betting odds, from certain companies, betustv.com, if you check them out, like if you're looking at betting odds for this fight, I mean, I would look and say, like, look, Dustin might be the underdog, he might not be. But Anthony Smith for sure is the underdog. These are like at a plus 300. I would look at that and be like, damn, I could take that, because it's his last fight. He's announced it. He's talked about it. He probably ran those extra miles. He probably ran those extra sprints. He probably hit those pads an extra round or two. He just pushed a little bit harder, knowing that it was the last time. This is it. And that guy, Anthony Smith's got almost 60 fights. I think he's got like 58 or 59 fights. 60 fights is a lot. He's got a lot of experience. Just to walk in there, just walk into the arena for the last time, walk in the locker room the last time, get your hands wrapped the last time, put your cup on the last time, put your, fill the gloves on your hand, like all these things the last time. That walk, though, into the cage, the announcement of your name, the last time that's going to happen, man, like that, you can fight that sense of freedom. Like, that's just so free to be able to go in there and be like, doesn't matter. I've already committed to this is it. I can just let it all out. I think it's absolutely amazing. So I'm looking to see how I want to take a look at how Anthony Smith approaches it. And I want to take a look at how Dustin Poirier approaches it. Those are things that I want to talk to them about. I want to see if I can get both of them on the show. And especially after Anthony fights, I want to talk to him and be like, hey man, like, how did it feel? Those are the things that I'm more intrigued by, I think, as a former fighter. And what were your thoughts? Like, my last fight, I didn't know it was my last fight. I just knew that I was like, I'm not enjoying it as much. And then the way the fight ended and all this stuff, it just it affected me differently. And I took a year to announce my retirement because I was like, I didn't know whether I was going to keep doing it or not. So that stuff. Let me see. It says Nico Pieter is, hey, Josh, I have some questions. Why is PFL putting out these weak fight cards? Look for an example, the May 24th card in France. It's full of fighters with just a couple fights. They do the same in Dublin. Okay, so that's like their European series. Those are small fights, which I think they're wasting money on, but that's the way that they pull their local talent in those areas to try and build out a star. That's their way of trying to find like a Conor McGregor. That's what they're trying to do. And then they want to catapult them to their tournament, or they want to catapult them into their champion series or whatever it is. That's what they're trying to do in those areas. Like I think they launch Africa this week or this month or something. And they're going to try to pull athletes from there as well. Those cards are always going to be like a Dana White Contender Series type fight. That's what those cards are for, to try to find young up and coming talent there that are in the area that will help them sell tickets in those areas if they decide to sell tickets there, because they don't seem to be doing that these days. But in terms of their tournament, I really enjoy their new tournament format, because you win, you stay in, and you move on. It's easier for me to follow. It's not a point system. I know in theory the point system sounded like a cool idea, but let's be honest, it was trash. You had fighters literally throwing fights, not giving it their all, and that happened. And it was a shitty situation. You put fighters in positions to like, okay, I'm not going to try as hard this time. And when you give them that opportunity to do that, they're going to take it. Like, why would I want to risk getting injured and being out of the tournament when I could just control this person, and control them and dominate the top position without taking any chances? That's a bad look, but it happens. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm going to scroll and see what else we got here. It says Nico Pieter, Van Steenis versus Johnny Eblen. Who you got and why? Oh, man. Look, I like both these guys. I don't know if you guys have ever met these guys. These guys are fantastic. Not just fighters, just people. Johnny Eblen is a fantastic person. Hung out with him a couple times. Had him on the podcast. He's a really good person, down to earth guy. Knows what he wants in life. Van Steenis, I mean, outside of just seeing him at promotions and hanging out and talk, but man, always has a smile on his face. He has a scar on his face, but it reminds me of a typical like bad guy on like a villain on a movie. And he's got a good look to him, and he's always well built. I'm always like, man, you'd be a perfect bad guy, like on a James Bond movie. Is what I've always thought. So that fight's going to be very interesting. Van Steenis does struggle a little bit with wrestlers. We saw it with the John Salter fight, and Johnny Eblen can wrestle, man. The guy's a dog when it comes to wrestling. So you see Johnny Eblen, the wrestling department, but on the feet, Johnny Eblen's got a different style of stand-up. He kind of comes forward with it. He's got some pop in his hands, but Van Steenis is a wild man. He'll do things that comes out of nowhere. So I can't really pick a winner right now until I think we get a little bit closer to the fight. And but I would say that Johnny Eblen's going to probably be favored in the odds. But I would not count Van Steenis out. He brings a big threat to the cage. And what I mean by that is that he's very unpredictable. He'll come off a right hand to a spinning elbow and a spinning wheel kick. Like, it just depends on where he leaves his body out of position, how he tries to continue on the combination. That could get him in trouble, or it could knock somebody out. And so it makes for a very fun fight. Him and I think Johnny Eblen's done everything he can in the middleweight division, but Van Steenis is a different type of. He's got a little bit of that mean streak in him, where guys like Fabian Edwards, they don't have that mean streak in them. They're just seem to be technically sound and a great lateral movement and quick hands, and just athletes, man, that can get you. But Van Steenis is a little bit of that dog. He's just that guy that's going to come forward, walk you down, really put that pressure on you. And so that's something to always kind of take into consideration when you're looking at fighters and going, man, this guy could be dangerous. And absolutely, Van Steenis, I think, to me, is probably one of the most dangerous fighters in the sport right now in the 185-pound division. Also, the 85-pound division is a weak division as well. Historically, it's been a weak division, but you've got a good top 10 fighters, whether in PFL and in Bellator, that can accumulate to be a good top 10 fighters. They're fantastic, man. They're great. Whereas the 205 doesn't have that right now. You said, is there anything else you sent me there, Dave? Okay. I don't know why, but for some reason you're not coming up. Yeah, I don't know why. Let me take a look at this. I will take a look. Oh, there you go. There you go. I've got the list now. I don't know why it's not coming up on my phone. It's coming up on the iPad that I'm reviewing on. Okay, it says T Shorty 3 is Chandler turning into more of a Diaz brother type superstar. He fights, his fights are fun, not smart, but fun. Kind of remind me of Nate. When he loses, he still wins. No. The Diaz brothers have been around from the beginning, and it helped that they had two of them, right? You can't continue to fight this long and have a career like that. It almost feels like one big long career for the Diaz brothers because Nick was older and had a good career and a long career and a high profile career. And then Nate, it just picked it up where he left off and has continued it on with very high profile fights. Chandler's going to be, I don't want to say one and done. He had a career in Bellator, but didn't really become, well known until he got to UFC. And his UFC stint has been nothing spectacular. I mean, he's got 2 wins and 5 or 6 fights. So that's, it's not spectacular. So I can't say that he's going to end up being. Now, don't get me wrong, his fights are definitely entertaining. But I can say honestly, his last 2 fights were not entertaining. The Charles Oliveira fight was not great. And then the Paddy Pimblett fight was definitely not great. I mean, it was entertaining in terms of if you wanted to watch him get smashed. I get it, but it was a very one-sided fight, and the same thing went for the Charles Oliveira fight, a very one-sided fight. GQ 89, end of 2025. Can we possibly see Islam challenge at 170? Maybe Shavkat versus Islam, crazy fight. Islam will not go up unless it's for the title. And if Bilal is the champion, I don't believe he'll go up. He's going to stay until if Bilal loses the title or if Bilal goes up. Now, Bilal has brought that up. If Islam wants to come up, I will go up to 185. I just don't know if they're going to give Bilal the same courtesy that they give Islam to fight for the automatic title shot. Bilal's going to go up and probably have to fight someone like a Robert Whittaker or somebody along those lines. I don't think that they're going to honor that type of, relationship there. So, let me see. What else you got? Okay, I answered the Nico one, answered the other Nico one. Man, Nico, I love you, brother. Thank you, man. In Granite 617, a lot more money in the UFC since the 90s and the 2000s. Got to unionize mixed martial arts. Only way. Look, yeah, unionize Fighters Association, whatever you want to call it. They've got to do something, but I've already broke that down earlier in this live chat. Is that the fighters at the top have to do it, and they have to be relevant. You can't have Randy Couture's and GSPs and even Daniel Cormier. Like you can't have, and Michael Bisping, you can't have them coming in trying to say, hey, we need to, create a fighters union. It's just not going to happen. They've got to be relevant fighters with titles around their waist right now that have a little bit of pull because like I said, ESPN has their deal with them that says, hey, we get title shots or get title fights on our pay-per-views because that's how we market it, and that'd be a great idea. And I think the UFC would obviously that's what they want as well. So if the champions decide, hey, we're not fighting for the next couple months, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. That'd be a breach of contract for ESPN and obviously UFC. So that would kind of pigeonhole them into coming to the table and saying, hey, you deserve 18%, 19, 20, 21%. I mean, I could see that happening, but the fighters at the top continue to think like, I'm going to make my money now. Well, you can make more. Well, I could lose my opportunity. No, you couldn't. Actually, you're going to lose eventually. Everyone does. Okay. I mean, everyone loses eventually. So you're going to lose. And when you do, you're going to be back down where everyone else is, wishing you were making more money. So you could help that situation out right now. They don't see it that way. Majority of them don't. Let me go ahead and move on. We talked about the Max situation. Matt Grantham, Josh, big fan. What will it take to get more weight classes in MMA? Light welterweight division 165, 175, welterweight division 195. Okay. So Big John and I have talked about this situation several times. And in this situation there's just not enough fighters. There'd only be the one weight class, which would be 165. Then you'd have to move 170 to 175. And then you could go 185. 195 would be a waste of time. 185 is already the weakest weight class, second weakest right now at this time. And 205. It would be horrible to try and do the 195. They're already struggling to have top tier guys at 185. So 185 to 205, 205 being weak, and then even heavyweights when weak. So from 185 on up, they're weak divisions. I mean, that's why I think you've had such long reigning champions. You've had Anderson Silva was at 185 for so long. Izzy had a good stint at 185. And you've got, the 205 pound division was very tough in the beginning, but then John Jones took it over and the athleticism and his abilities just, ran through it. I mean, that's been a weak weight class ever since he kind of took it over. Not since he took it over. He beat a lot of the top tier guys that were there, all the top tier guys there. But no new guys are coming in to really challenge. I mean, like Dominic Reyes to me is probably one of the top guys that could potentially have challenged John, and he had a great fight against him, but then he went on a losing skid. And then you got Yuri Prochaska, like him. He's to me, I feel like he's suffering like a little bit. He's fun to watch. The lack of technique though is going to cost him, as we're finding out right now. He's getting knocked out now by guys that have better technique. And the Poetan situation is, he's got to get better at wrestling. And until he does that, I mean, that's kind of where we're at right now. He's got to be a little more active on the feet when guys know how to wrestle. He's obviously a lot more. He holds back a little bit more when guys know how to wrestle. So that's going to be a situation. But I don't think we need to add more weight classes outside of the 165 and 175, and then you go 185. So then fighters have an opportunity to achieve that 3 title belt situation, like kind of how Henry was trying to do 125, 135, and then 145. So not able to do it. Very tough to do. Obviously, no one's ever done it in a top tier promotion. Andy, his name is Andy. Who are your top 5 pound for pound and why? Aside from John Jones, because he's the GOAT. Let's hold back on the GOAT thing. Okay, my list is Islam, Poirier, DDP, Merab, Pantoja. Look, Andy, I love your list. The thing is, your list is just basically all current fighters. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about the history of the sport? That's a question I got to ask you, because right now those are all just people that you're talking about. Is that the pound for pound list that you're looking for right now? I would say Islam for sure. I would say I wouldn't put. I'd put Jones number 2, and I know you're saying he's the top, but I mean he's been very inactive, and until he's a little bit more active, and then also going up from 205 to heavyweight. I mean, like in the GSP voice, I'm not impressed by your performance. Like it just really comes down to that position of I'm not really impressed with the heavyweight division, and 205 pound is weaker than that. And sure, you went up and you're fighting stand-up guys. Now you fought a 42-year-old Stipe Miocic. Like, no disrespect to Stipe, but I think we can all agree that Stipe has slowed down. Stipe wasn't the same fighter. He came in looking fantastic, by the way. It's just not the same at 42 years old. So yeah, if I'm ranking my current ones right now, I would probably I'd for sure go Islam first, go John Jones 2, Topuria 3, probably DDP, and I would probably put, Merab and Pantoja. I think you get interchangeable. They could be interchangeable. They could be. I think I would probably give it to Merab based on the fact that it is the toughest division right now in the sport, and it's probably the most exciting. So I'd say 135 being the toughest division. I'd give it to Merab over Pantoja, but I love Pantoja, man. I love watching him fight. What else you got? Oh, here we go. Let me see. Will Brooks or Michael Chandler? What, right now, or or is in like if they fought right now, or who do I like more? I mean, both of them have had just. They had good careers, and then I don't know what it was. Something happened along the way. They just couldn't get it together, and they had interesting fights. I mean, Will Brooks over Michael Chandler happened twice. He beat him twice. So I think if you were to say who fights, if they were to fight now, I mean, I'd probably say Will Brooks would beat him again. Will Brooks got good takedown defense, and who's better on the feet? Will Brooks. He proved it in his first 2 fights, and Will Brooks, I think, has taken less damage than Michael Chandler over the years. So I would say probably Will Brooks. Mr. 509, Josh saw an interview of Sean Shurk on Lights Out podcast, and Sean said Dana called him weeks before his huge title fight and told Shurk to keep the fight standing. Thoughts? I mean, it's been known to happen. I mean, you listen to Corey Anderson. Corey Anderson was very clear about it in that same situation and scenario. He said, like, look, they were forcing me to stand, and it ended up getting knocked out, and it cost him, and that shot him back, and he just like, no, I'm going to go back to be a wrestler. And then they kind of just shunned him, and he basically was stuck. So Mr. 509, I mean, the promotion has an idea of what they want, and it's been known to happen. It happens in boxing. It happens in MMA. And, you have the right to do what you want to do inside that cage. You have the right to listen to Dana White if you want. And if you don't, you're going to, not I won't say suffer the consequences, but there will be some sort of consequences and repercussions. But my remedy to that will always be fight the way you fight, and winning solves everything. And John Fitch was walking proof of that. Dana White did not like him, hated the style of which he fought. and ultimately had to just basically give him a title shot because John had, I want to say, out of his 11 fight win streak, 9 of them were finishes. How are you going to say that you're not going to give me a title shot when 9 of my fights are finishes out of the 11? So winning solves everything. Sean Shurk got to the title shot. I don't care if you call me and tell I'm at the title shot for a reason. I got here by wrestling. I'm going to keep wrestling, win the title, and then we'll talk. Okay. Cash out on that's the other thing. There's such a discrepancy from money from winning the title and then that bump in pay because you're getting pay-per-view numbers, especially back then, versus not ever being the champion and not making the pay-per-view money. Those are the problems. And Sean, if he was smart, which he did stand quite a bit, and he did try to wrestle. Just Matt Hughes was the better fighter that night. I was there at that fight, watching that fight, so I was there. Josh and John, Cub Swanson is in Giga's corner this weekend after Giga asked him to train him. What do you think about that? It's a pretty cool thing. I think it's a spectacular thing. I love Cub Swanson. I don't know anything about Giga outside of he's just a really good stand-up fighter. But I love Cub Swanson, man. Great person. Absolutely amazing fighter. Love watching him fight his whole career from the WC to the UFC. I don't have one bad thing to say about Cub Swanson. He's a spectacular person. And it doesn't surprise me, to be honest. It doesn't surprise me at all. And I think Giga has got his hands full this weekend. I think he's fighting Onama, I believe is correct. And that's gonna be a tough fight for him. It's gonna be a very tough fight for him. So I like Cub Swanson, but Cub's not fighting, and I know Cub. I don't really know Giga, so I'm kind of up in the air on who I care wins the fight. But I love to see the Cubs working with other fighters. I love seeing that. T Shorty 3, what do you think of Mike Perry's dirty boxing? I think whatever Mike Perry does is just fun. I mean, I don't think you can find anything to say bad about Mike Perry. I mean, he's a knucklehead, but we've all been there. We've all had knucklehead moments in our life, some more than others. And but I love him, man. I love watching his interviews. I watch him. I occasionally catch some of his podcasts. He's a fun guy, man. I love that he's out there doing his thing. I love it. So anything that people want to say about him, man, to me, he's a fun guy, and I love seeing him. I love seeing him succeed, especially when he was going through all that stuff with the UFC. His wife, I think his wife and her girlfriend at the time was cornering him. I like to see fighters succeed, and him having to deal with that hardship and making good money fighting Jake Paul, making good money in bare knuckle, and then now having his own dirty boxing promotion. Fantastic. Fantastic. Now, I don't know how it's going to work out. Look, anybody that starts a promotion knows this. You have one of two ways of doing it. Doing a small show and going ahead and making pennies on the dollar, you're going to make some money, but you're not going to make a lot. Or you can try to get into that high top world, try to compete with Bellator, PFL, and UFC, and you're going to lose a ton of money, but there is some upside that you will potentially make some money. But it's the ones that are in that gray area you've got to be careful for. If you're in that gray area is when you just lose money and nothing works. And so he's got to be careful if he's putting any money into that dirty boxing. Weary Traveler, Holloway versus Poirier announced earlier prediction. I gave you guys the answer to that. Look, I think for me, the prediction on it is that Dustin Poirier has won that fight already twice, one time at 145, one time at lightweight. But the difference will be is that Max Holloway will have time to put the weight on properly, where he didn't have time to put the weight on properly in their second fight at 155 when he fought Dustin. Dustin, I also think he's going to fight a lot more freely, knowing that this is his last fight. And I believe it's in New Orleans and Louisiana. So is what I think what he was holding out for. And so that makes a lot of sense. If that fight takes place in New Orleans and it's his retirement fight, he's going to fight so free and just have so much fun. And I'd like to see him get a win, man. I'd like to see somebody go out on top because it's very rare that happens. So, and Max coming off the knockout loss to Ilia Topuria, I want to know if he's the same fighter. Does he feel like he's the same fighter? Does he feel like his chin can hold up now? Or has that chin been cracked? And it's, will it continue to be cracked? And will it eventually just break, like Chuck Liddell's did? And we're going to find out. The Loose Joints says, has anyone ever told you that you look like Mark Consuelos? I don't know who that is. Kelly Ripa's husband. I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen him. Dave, is there a way for you to pull that up? If you can take a picture of him and send it to me, and I'll come back to you on the Loose Joints. By the way, Loose Joints, I've got my joints are kind of bothering me. I've been training jiu-jitsu again those last couple of days. So I took such a deep breath yesterday, and like the little tiny muscles in my back. I could feel it. Like I couldn't even expand my chest and my back muscles enough because I had a hard time getting a deep breath because I hadn't trained super hard in grappling and probably since I've lived in Texas, so probably about 2 years. But man, it was fun. The pain comes with the fun. So, oh, here we go. Let me see. Let me see who this guy is. Oh, damn. I do look like him. He's a good looking SOB. So does that mean that I have a chance with her? Does that is that what that means? You're saying I got a chance? This guy's a good looking guy. My jawline's a little bit more squared, his a little bit more pointy, especially when we both have scruffs. I got a little bit of a scar on my eye, like he's got a little bit of a scar on his eye, or maybe it's just the way his eyebrows are cut. Yeah, man. My hairline's more straight across. His is a little bit more, receding. But man, he's a good looking dude. Good looking dude. He's got way better looking ears than me. But yeah. No, man, I'm not offended at all. I was expecting to some ugly dude, but then you said Kelly Ripa, and I was like, okay, nah, she's good. If you guys have any more questions, go ahead and hit us up, and Dave's gonna try to get them over to me. But let me know. I guess I want to get into this conversation because we've been having this conversation on Twitter as well as on other platforms. But I know that BetUS TV just put out a post on Instagram and on Twitter on X, and basically saying like, okay, how do you rank your featherweight division from basically the GOAT in the featherweight division? So for me, I put Jose Aldo at the very top, and people are going to ask me why. And I'm going to say, well, he was on an 18 fight win streak and hadn't lost in 9 or 10 years. I mean, his last fight that he lost was like in 2006. And then he lost to Connor in a 13-second fight, or I think it was 13 seconds. He lost that fight, and then he went on to beat another former world champion in Frankie Edgar. So he's had fights where he has fought guys even after he lost to Connor. And sure, he's had some losses, obviously after those. He beat Frankie, then he lost to Max twice, which a lot of people lost to Max. Then he beat Jeremy Stevens, then he beat Hanato Moicano, who just fought for the title. And I know that he kind of got bumped up because of the situation. Then he lost to Volkanovski, and everyone's like, well, how can you not have him ahead? How can you have him ahead of Volkanovski since he lost to Volkanovski and kind of in his prime? I said, yeah, but you have to remember that an 18 fight win streak, he's been fighting for so long. Sometimes people's primes are not when the normal person's prime is. Like my prime was 27 to 31, 32, somewhere in there. Sure, I had some good fights after my prime, but that was my prime. I physically felt great. Felt like my technique was growing the most. And I was having success. Felt like I couldn't lose. And that's when I ended up winning the Strikeforce title. I was on a good run, just having those good moments during that time. I felt like that was my prime. Jose Aldo's prime could have been from 24, 25, 26, when he was beating former champions. I mean, you got to think about it, right? I mean, let me go up to the WC days because he had wins before the WC days also. But I mean, like Jonathan Brookins. So he beat Jonathan Brookins. He beat who else? Cub Swanson. He beat Mike Brown. He beat Uriah Faber, Manny Gambirian, Mark Hominick, Kenny Florian, who fought in every weight class and fought for the title in almost in every weight class. Chad Mendez beat him twice. Beat Frankie Edgar. I believe he beat Frankie 3 times. Like you've got Ricardo Lamas, you've got Chad Mendez again. Then he loses to Conor McGregor, which I don't want to say it was a fluke, but like he got clipped coming in, and then he beats Frankie Edgar again. Then he loses to Max twice. Then he beats Jeremy Stevens, who's having another run back in the UFC already. But Jeremy Stevens is a stud, man. I've trained with him. Very dense like bones, just hurts even to pummel with him and grapple with him. Then he hits you and you're like, oh, this is disgusting. And then you got Moicano in there that he beat Moicano. Then he beat Marlon Vera. You got Chito. He beat Chito. He beat Pedro Munoz, Rob Font. These are all more current fighters. And losing to guys, if you take a look at who he's lost to, his prime kind of came earlier because he was rattling off so many wins during that time. An 18 fight win streak, trying to stay motivated over 9-10 years of being undefeated. That's very difficult. And if I look at the guys that he's beat that have been former champions, I mean, Mike Brown, you got Mike Brown, Frankie Edgar. I'm not sure. Did Chad Mendez ever have an interim title? I don't think so. Yeah, that's right. I was trying to remember if he had one or something along those lines. Okay. But he beat Uriah Faber, Mike Brown, Kenny Foreign fought for the title multiple times in 3 different weight classes. You got Frankie Edgar, former lightweight world champ. He beat him several times. The fights were there. I mean, he lost the guys that he pretty much lost to. Most of them all became champion. Marlon Vera, Peter Yan, Max Holloway, Conor McGregor, Marab. Yeah. I mean, those are your guys. So, and look, and I want to be honest with you guys. The younger Jose Aldo, with the ability of kicking when he was kicking a lot, like when he fought Mark Hominick, when he fought Uriah Faber, I think honestly, I think he would have beat Ilia Topuria because and everyone's like, "Oh, what are you talking about? Ilia would have taken him down and submitted him." I don't know if you guys recall, but I think Jose Aldo's takedown defense and against guys that are true wrestlers, the Uriah Fabers, the Frankie Edgars, those guys, Mike Brown, the jiu-jitsu wrestler guys, it was almost 100%. I want to say he was like at a 95% takedown defense. The Chad Mendez's. I mean, like those guys couldn't take him down. And I'm not saying that Ilya is not a good wrestler. I'm just simply saying the amount of leg kicks that he would put on somebody like an Ilia Topuria at that younger age. I think he beats Ilia Topuria. So I'm going to put Aldo at number 1 in the featherweight division. And also just out of just due respect because going undefeated that long, and then on top of it, being one of the first, going from the WC to the UFC, and not getting distracted, being the champion in both division, in both promotions is a big deal. Some fighters would have went up to the UFC and just let the star power type thing get to them and fell off. And he didn't do that. He continued on, had great success. Great success, yes. And he had just great success in his UFC run and his stint until he got to Conor. And then he had some rocky stuff after that, but he got a big win over Frankie after that. So I'm gonna go Jose Aldo number 1. I'm gonna put Volk number 2. Everyone's like, oh, well, he just lost to, he lost to Ilya. And yeah, but I also think too, like you said, when you've cleaned out the division, I put a little bit more respect on your name. He beat Max Holloway multiple times, Volkanovski beat Max Holloway multiple really tough fight, but he beat Brian Ortega. I'm gonna put Volk, and then now Volk recapturing the title. That also says a lot to me as well. I'm gonna put Volk number 2. Now, I guess where you put me at in this whole thing is you've got the Ilia Topuria and Conor McGregor situation. So both of them kind of treated it the same, but I'm gonna actually put Ilia Topuria ahead of Conor McGregor, and this is killing Podcast Dave because Podcast Dave is such a Conor McGregor lover. I don't want to say butt lover, but he's one of those. He's one of those. He loves him, man. He's a Conor McGregor huge fan. Him and Colby Covington, like those are his guys. But bottom line is, I'm gonna put Ilya there because Ilya defended the featherweight title, and even though he beat Volk, great. But I also looked at Volk coming off the head kick knockout loss to Islam, and then even though he beat Max, I also hold it a little bit against him that Max had to cut. He came back down from 55 on a I wouldn't say short notice, but relatively short notice to get his weight down after putting his weight on properly to get up to 55. And I had this argument with Big John. I said, it's going to affect him. It's for sure going to affect him. And he's like, oh no, he'll be fine. This and that. He's been, his whole career has been there. No. But once you put the weight on, it's harder to get it off. And John, I expected Big John to understand that more than anyone. Cause once he put the weight on, it never came off, Big John. Your weight never came off. So simply put, I thought that him going back down had an effect. So for me, in my mind, maybe I'm reading too much into it. That to me is what skews my thought against putting Volk there. At the featherweight, at one of the featherweight kings. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go with it's gonna go Aldo, it's gonna go Volk. Then I'm gonna put Ilya, and then I'll put Max, and then I'll put Conor. Conor to me is at the end only because he had a great run. But let's be honest, stylistically, the UFC matched him up properly. Chad Mendes was a late, like a 5-day notice or 8-day notice fight. Comes in, struggled in the first round against a true wrestler, struggled against him. And and then he fights Aldo, who's predominantly a stand-up guy, and obviously the emotions I think got a hold of Aldo, and it cost him. He walked right into a shot, which beautifully timed shot. I'm not taking anything away from it. But I put Conor at the bottom of the list of those people. So I go Aldo, Volk, Ilya, Max, and then Conor. That's my list, I think, right there at that featherweight division. I love what Max, what he has done, who he's fought, all of those things. I love what he brings to the sport. Just it would, to me, it was, he was still in his legit prime, it seems to be, when he fought Volkanovski, and he kept going back to the well and wasn't able to get the win. So I hold that kind of against him a little bit. Probably not fair. Probably not fair, because I just gave you guys the excuse on why I put Aldo in that where his prime should have been. But Aldo to me was, like I said, the long reigning champion for 18 fights or something like that, where he hadn't lost since 2006. And that's pretty spectacular. Is there anything else you got for me there, Dave? Let me, you dropped more into this in this conversation. Okay. Lazy Bed, what's your favorite walkout song you ever used? Okay, so look, my favorite walkout song I've ever used was the one that I used in Chicago, which was the Michael Jordan walkout song for the Bulls. But what I wanted them to do was I wanted them to put the Little John Ozzy Osbourne like song on right after they did the full intro when I got into the stadium, and they never did. So I just basically got the repeating sound all the way through, which really bothered me. I was so upset because it could have been awesome. Like as I broke the threshold into the arena, you have the Ozzy voice with the, Little John, screaming. That to me would have been just biblical, for me to walk into that sold out arena. It was fucking awesome at the United Center. But the UFC dropped the ball on that. But it was their idea for me to use the Michael Jordan Bulls music. And I thought that was a fantastic idea. I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And but they messed up on cutting the rest of the edits. I gave them a song and they suggested I use that. I said yes, but I wanted them to cut where I gave them the song and say input this, and they didn't do that. So that I would say that would have been I would have probably used that had I had that. I probably would use that all the time. Lazy Bed, Wonderboy Thompson on studio desk at an analyst this weekend. I think he's gonna do fantastic. Absolutely. I think it was called Range 13 or Range 19 or something like that. I think it was Range 13, Range 15. Anyways, the zombie movie with Tim Kennedy and Stephen Thomas, Phil Davis. We did a movie together. Had a good opportunity to catch up with him and talk to him, and that was a long time ago. But we've crossed paths a couple times since then. Jeez, man, he's so likable. Like I don't think I've ever met anyone that has anything bad to say about him. Like even leading up to fights, people are like, "Man, just can you like at least try to sell the fight?" It's like, yeah, I am. I said you're a dork. Like that's the way that he talks trash, and he's so fun. He's a great guy though, and I love watching him fight. But absolutely, I think he's gonna crush it at the desk. Crush it. Ray Charles, can you see? Ray Charles. All right. Anyways, that's Stevie Wonder. Maybe that's Ray Charles too. What's up, Josh? Just wondering if you ever tune into European MMA, KSW, Octagon, or FNC. So I have seen some KSW because Michael Maturla used to fight on there a lot, and he's one of my favorite training partners I ever had. He's just such a great person, Michael Maturla, and he used to fight for KSW. I have not seen Octagon or FNC, so I think the time frames, and I wouldn't even know how to watch Octagon or FNC, but if you can send me or post something in there that says that, I'd love to check it out. You guys go ahead and drop me some super chats or drop me some fan questions, and we're going to get to as many as we can and have some fun with this. Ramrod? Is it Ramrod? Okay. You think Strickland's days for contendership done numbered? No, I don't think they're done or numbered because it's a weak division. He'll always, I think, be in that top 5. He'll be somewhere in that mix. I think he's a fantastic fighter. He's good on the feet, hard to take down. Johnny Eblen talks about him all the time because they train together for big time fights. And he's like, man, the guy knows how to pressure. He's tough to deal with. He's tough to take down. And he's tough to hold down. So I understand that he'll be around for a bit. All he needs is a little bit more output, and he needs a little bit more risk taking. That's the thing. Like he fights a very conservative, safe fight with no sense of urgency. And I talked about this on one of our last podcasts after he lost his last fight, I said, there's no sense of urgency out of you. Like if you knew you lost the first 2 rounds, you've got to win the third if you want to have any chance at winning the fight. And he just couldn't seem to wrap his head around that. Even his coach was pleading with him. You've got to go. You've got to go. And if you're always if you're always just fighting at a level 3 and you have no gear 4 and 5, then fighters figure that out. Like all I gotta do is just hit you and run from you. Like I gotta be honest with you. the way that I fought Nate Diaz is I knew that there was no extra gear from Nate Diaz. Anyone that fights Nate Diaz, they should have noticed that by now. They don't fight at a fast pace. They walk after you and people get under the pressure and they think that's a fast pace. No, because you let the pressure get to you. But if you hit him and circle out and come out on the backside of him and hit him again and then run to the other side of the cage, he'll walk after you and you get a chance to get your breath and recover. And then you hit him again 3 or 4 times. And then you circle out and run to the other side of the cage. He'll eventually walk into a big shot and you can either rock him, knock him out, or you can just keep doing what you're doing until eventually like he's bloody and messy. And then like it looks like you've just dominated the fight. You've just got to be careful and cautious with him in the later parts of the third round if it's a 3-round fight, and definitely in the fourth and fifth because they're still sneaky and they're so good. They're good at latching onto the neck and the guillotine. They're good at triangles. They're good at the grappling aspect of them has kind of gone away. It's more stand up now, but I mean you can never leave your neck down, never. Whether they get your back or whether they're in a guillotine position. I mean, go ask that guy in the streets of New Orleans that he put to sleep and left face down, ass up. I mean, that guy, he's probably still counting sheep. Fucking guy. So I mean, I look at them and I think to myself, like, with Strickland, he's gotta have a little bit more bounce in his step, apply a little bit more pressure, have a little bit more strategy, and actually follow through with it. I think he lost a good coach when him and Nicksick, had their spat afterwards. I think he lost a good coach. I think that was just Strickland just trying to cope with the fact that, dude, you didn't fight the way we talked about, and you didn't do anything I asked you to do in the corner. That's all responsibilities on the fighter. The coaches and stuff can only tell you what to do, but the frustration sets in that you need to do it, or at least give me an effort. And there was no effort by Sean Strickland. So I think that's where the frustration lied. Do I think he's done as a contendership? No, he'll always be in that top 5 because it's a weak division. Masters of the Universe Classic. Josh, if prime Josh Thomson could fight 3 current active fighters on the UFC roster, this is a good question. You haven't fought. Who would you like to challenge yourself against on the active roster? Now, am I taking them when they were in their prime too, or am I just taking them right now on the active roster? Because I got to be honest, if I was in my prime, I would fucking love to fight Michael Chandler right now. Just cuz. And if those of you guys follow our Weighing In podcast, you guys hit the like and subscribe button. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in and hit the thumbs up. We also offer memberships and stuff. And if you guys follow our show, you guys know that Chandler and I have a strong dislike for each other. So it's kind of funny. But that being said, outside of that type of stuff, let me see. It would be in the lightweight division. And if I was to let me pull up these rankings real quick. Let me pull these bad boys up. UFC rankings. Let me see. I think. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. In the lightweight division. I mean, I wouldn't be really considered a lightweight right now, but we're talking about in my prime. I'm probably a 185 pounder right now. Who would Charles Oliveira for sure. 100% because he can grapple. He's good on the feet. And I love fighting guys that are respectful. I love fighting the guys that he comes like no one has anything bad to say about Charles. And I love fighting those guys because no matter what at the end of the fight, you guys are gonna have respect, in a real way. Not like a hey man, great fight, I'm glad we got this over with. And no. Charles is gonna give you respect before the fight, he's gonna give you respect after the fight. I would have loved to have fought Charles. Dustin Poirier 100%, and I've trained with Dustin. I had respect for him when he was at 145, but just because he's got the dog in him, man, like he's got the dog. I mean, like that's something I love being able to witness. He's so fun to watch fight. That he'd definitely be him. Let me see. Let me go on down this thing. Dun, dun, dun. I mean, I would say Justin Gaethje, but I put him right there. I put him and Dan Hooker. I think would probably be the 2 that I would really like to fight. Like in my prime, I was looking for guys that wanted to fight. They wanted to fight, and like not guys that were like, okay, I'm just gonna try and sprawl and brawl and keep it on the feet. That doesn't mean that you're fighting. That means that you could have been just trying to just trying to touch me or just trying to knock me out. Like guys that really want to fight will stand in front of you and trade. And I was looking for those guys because I like to trade a little bit, but I also like to mix it up. I wanted to basically try to try to take them into deep waters and drown them, or I wanted to try and land, and try and dominate the top position if I was grappling, or I wanted to try and figure out my head kick position. Like I was always looking for something along those lines. And yeah, I guess if I was saying a current fighter on that roster, it would definitely be the Patty Pimblett thing is starting to interest me now after his last two performances. Great performances, his last two performances. So that fight kind of would start to interest me a little bit, I think. But I would definitely go with it would have to be Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, Dan Hooker, and of course Dustin Poirier. And that's this just so we're clear. That's all out of respect. Those are the guys that have look at the reason why they're there. Those guys have been there for so long. And the new breed can't even break, they can't break through. Like they can't break the seal because guys like Justin and Dustin and obviously Islam and Charles, they're going to be there for a while, man. I mean, I know Dustin's retiring, but they've been there forever. These new breed of fighters, they can't get through them because these guys are so damn good. They're still so good after all these years being in the top position. So yeah, that's probably my list right there. Let me see if I missed a couple. There we go. I had to click out. Sometimes it won't let me swipe. Alex, do you ever wonder how you would have done in current 45 and 55? First off, 45 right now, if I was to fight, I'd have to go to 45 because these guys are enormous. Like Islam to me, when I was training with him, was huge, huge. I see pictures of Arman Sarukian, just huge, enormous. And those guys, like they're just super big. So I would have had to have gone to 45. When I was in my prime, 55 was my spot, but if it's not, I think I probably would have had to make some adjustments and made that cut down to 45 if I wanted to be a contender in this thing. It really depends. I'm thinking when in that 27, 28, 29, my skill level was there, my size was there, all of those things. So I think I would have had to have fought probably at 55 during that time, but I think I would have eventually at like 31, 32, I would have had to make the cut down to 30 to 45. Alex Johnson, hey Punk, love the podcast. Appreciate you, man. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. And I love that you guys are reaching out and send me over some chats. Tons of respect to the fighters for putting their health on the line. When do you think the fighters' mindset changed from leaving it all out in the cage to seeming like they just didn't want to lose? Look, it's always been like they just don't want to lose. A lot of the fighters in the beginning, though, knew that if you wanted to make any money, the UFC based it off of how you fought. Those days are gone. Now they just have a standard pay scale that they pay you. That's it. Like back in the day, if you were an exciting fighter, they paid you a little bit more. And if you started to build your brand, they paid you a little bit more. So that was kind of the thing. Now it doesn't matter until you get to a title shot. Like they're not like guys like Sean O'Malley who end up developing a big following. They'll pay him a little bit more. When his initial first contract is up, as long as you've got a big following. If you've got, 1 million or 2 million subscribers or followers on your socials, they're going to pay you a little bit more because they know you're going to do well for the brand. You're out there. Everything you do represents UFC pretty much because your name is synonymously attached to the UFC, and the same goes for them. So they know that if you've got a big following, great. They're going to pay you a little bit more because you're basically walking advertisement for them, and it makes sense. But I don't know when it comes down to the fighters leaving it all in the cage. Look, you're either bred for it or you're not. Some of them are going to look at it like a business. Ilia Topuria looks at it as a business, and they're like, "Oh, he finishes by knockout, yeah, because he got power." Conor McGregor looks at it as like a business. I don't look at Conor McGregor and think to myself, he's got the dog in him. I mean, we saw when he fought Nate the first time. Like all of a sudden you're a wrestler. Like those are the type of things. And I know I'm not trying to take a dig at him. I'm just simply saying a dog is somebody to me is like a Dustin Poirier and Dan Hooker. Like when you watch that fight, you're going to tell both those guys are dogs. Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway, both those guys are dogs. Until I see a knockdown drag out with Ilia Topuria, I'm not going to put him there. Now I know the Jai Herbert situation, he got rocked, came back, was able to win the fight. That to me like shows that he's got it in him. But I mean, I'm talking about when both fighters are dog dead, tired, exhausted. Now that's a lot of people are going to say, well, that's stupid. That's just dumb fighting. You're right, it is. But you know what? There's also times where you just have to do it that way. you've got to realize that it's all or nothing. If you guys go back in, I'm going to use myself as an example. If you go back and watch my second fight with Gilbert Melendez, I lost like I think I lost. It was like 3-1. I think I had won one round out of the four going into the fifth. And my coaches go, you have to go out there and knock him out. You're going to lose your title if you don't knock him out. And I went out there, and if you go back and watch the beginning of the fifth round, was just me standing in front of him, just trying to knock him out, like a good 2 minutes of it. And I was just exhausted after that. And I tried to do it again later in the fifth round, and just nothing came about. But it was, it was one of those are the things that you want to see. You go out and there's fighters. I can't remember who it was that he fought, but Oscar De La Hoya fought somebody, and in the 12th round, um, you know, he had to go out there and get the finish. And sure enough, he went out there and just fucking put it on him and dominated the 12th round. I think he ended up getting the finish in the 12th round. But it was one of those fights where, yeah, yeah. No, it was earlier than that. He's got like a African name, I believe. He, I Cartel. I think so. I think it was him. Yeah, I think it was him. Yep. I'm trying to remember, but yeah, I mean, like, yeah, they were having a good battle back and forth. And I had De La Hoya up, I think, a little bit, or he was down by a little. I can't remember. But yeah, he went out there and just fucking laid it on the line. That's what you're looking for in the mindset. And that's not a dig at fighters being like, hey, you have low fight IQ. No. Like there's times where you're gonna be in that situation. You've got to dig deep and get it done. And not every fighter has that in them. And I think that's when they're making business decisions now. Whereas in the early days, that wasn't that much of a business decision. It was like, this is my life. I need to make money. Now these guys, if you're in the middle tier, you're making 60 and 60, 90 and 90. If you win, you're making 120,000. That's fucking crazy. You know what I mean? Like that's crazy. Like that's a lot of money for these. And don't get me wrong, of course they should be making more money. They're putting their life on the line. I get it. But that's a lot of money because a lot of us during my era didn't make that money. We didn't make that kind of money. So that's why. Doc Holiday, Punk, over under on Pico being champ within the next year. I'm gonna go under. He's not gonna be the champ in the next year. I will give him 2 years to be the champ. He needs to slow play it. I know he's talking right now about how he wanted the Evloev fight, and I wanted him to have that fight because stylistically that's a good matchup for him. But if I look at the rest of the rankings in that division, the rest of the fights are pretty hard. If I think Max is staying at 55 now that he's going up to fight Dustin. But let's take a look at that. The Diego Lopez fight is a tough fight for him just because of the physical size, as well as the power in his hands and the ability to grapple. So if the fight does hit the ground, if Pico does take him down, that's a tough fight for him. Yair is going to be a tough fight no matter what because of just his athleticism, speed, and movement. Those guys, doesn't matter who's in front of him, in front of Yair, is going to be a difficult fight. So, Pico's going to have a hard time with him as well. Evloev, I think he's got a good chance of beating him. I think he's got a good chance of beating him. I think he can out wrestle him. I think he's going to be able to out scramble him on the feet. I think for sure he's the better boxer. He's got to be careful just getting caught. And he maybe Pico would lose a takedown in transition or in boxing. But I think his ability to scramble, I think his ability to get back up to his feet, I think would be, I think he'd be able to do that. That's what I'm thinking right now. Good fights for him though in that division. Him and Arnold Allen would be good. Him and Josh Emmett would be good. Him and Dan Ige, Calvin Cater and Pico would be a fun fight. Those fights are there. No matter how much Aaron Pico knows how to wrestle, he still likes to stand and trade. He still likes to stand and box, and he's a fighter through and through. So I'm looking forward to seeing his experience into the UFC. Old man Dave, Nicksick did Strickland dirty. I'm not saying that he didn't do Strickland dirty. I'm simply putting it as a coach. Fighters have a tendency sometimes, due to worried about podcasting and being a MMA celebrity. Okay, the thing is though, as a coach, you have to say it like it is. Now he shouldn't have gone on a podcast and said what he said, but he also told Sean exactly what he said in the back room. So he's just telling people what he told Sean. The frustration as a coach is that I put a lot of time and effort into you, and if you're not going to listen to me, then what am I here for? You know, every coach, majority of coaches have kids, have families. They travel every weekend to go corner these fighters. Sure, they get compensated for it. This is how they make their living. They understand that. But you're taking time away from my family and my wife and my kids and my sports and all that. And you're taking time away from, me helping other fighters. If you're not going to listen to what I'm asking you to do, if I'm cornering you and you're just mute to me, like I'm mute to you, like what am I doing? Like you can come here and just be cornered, you be cornered by anybody then. Like and that was the frustration, especially at that level when you need coaches from the outside looking in going, "Hey, what's going like money, man, money. Like you need to go out there. You're winning this title. You're gonna bonus up. You're gonna make all this cash. Like this is your opportunity. You're here for the title. That's what we put in all this work. There's that old what I think it was one of the coaches. This is why you ran all those miles. This is why you lift all those weights. This is why you do Bill Parcells. That's what he said. Like, this is why you did all that stuff. Is so you could leave it inside the cage. And in that scenario and situation, he didn't leave it in the cage. And that's the frustration as a coach. And did he do him dirty? I wouldn't say it was dirty. He should have kept it. He should have said something a little bit differently. The way he said it was definitely not right. But he openly admitted to it and he apologized. And, but whether they work together or not, 1% zombie, respectfully out of your losses, who would you rematch to get that one back? I mean, it's going to probably always be Gilbert. My thing with Gilbert, it's always going to be Gilbert. I would maybe even a Clay Guida, only because the Clay Guida situation, like I gave him the opportunity to get in the UFC because they were like, hey, we got this guy. He's been bugging us. He wants a fight. And I'm like, all right, let me see the tape. We saw the tape. I was like, yeah, I'll take the fight. Like he's a wrestler. I knew it. I'm like, all right. I just didn't take him serious. And man, did I fuck up. And so, but Clay Guida made a great career off of it. And I'm actually so happy that he did. I mean, I hated him for a while, for, a couple of years. And, we've actually had opportunities and stuff to chop it up over a drink and communicate and talk. And man, he's a great guy. So absolutely fantastic. And enjoyed spending time with him and chat with him. But yeah, I would say Clay Guida and probably always be Gilbert just because I feel like I won the third fight. So let's go ahead and move on. Alex, do you think Tony is the highest level opponent that you fought? No, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. He was probably in his peak. It was his prime, but he wasn't the highest level. No, I don't think so at all. I mean, to me, like when I went to the UFC, I was 36, I think at the time, or 35, something like that. Gilbert was coming into his own 33, somewhere in there. Second time. Yeah. Second time, like that happening, like my second time going in the UFC, I was older. And so he was fighting me at the end of my career, where that's where he's at right now, fighting all the guys that are coming up, the Patty Pimlets and the Michael, not even Michael Chandler, but the Patty Pimlets and, and the other guys, the Charles Oliveras, they're coming up. Whereas he was on his way out, and it happens fast and it happens quick. For 2 years, you got your run. You literally have 2, maybe 3, if you can stretch it, of high level world-class fights. And then after that, you become, not everyone, but it comes in spurts. You become the nail and you're no longer the hammer. And so, but no, I wouldn't say he was my highest level. I mean, he was a good fighter. He's a sloppy fighter. He had a granite chin, his body's broken down on him now. His body was still in peace when I fought him. Like he's going through a lot, in terms of his physical health as well. You can see in the way that he moves, just walks around. He's not someone that he didn't really take care of his body when he was coming up. I mean, he beat his body up thinking that was the way to show you're tough. And reality is that's not true. And no, but I would say Gilbert to me was more technical and more of a higher level fight. I would say who else did I fight that was up there in that level? I mean, obviously Benson Henderson to me was probably the most technical guy that I fought, and just high fight IQ. And people criticize him for his lackluster fights and this and that, but man, the guy was skilled. The guy was good, so good. So I put Benson probably being up there above. I put him above Gilbert. So I mean, there's guys up there. Dwayne Ludwig was a fantastic fighter. Not as good on the ground when I fought him. He got better a little bit later, right around the time I was fighting him. He got better on the ground, but his stand up was always. He had the fastest knockout, I think, in the UFC for a long time. It was like, I think 11 seconds or 9 seconds against the French guy. think he was Canadian, but he had like a French name. Let me see. Jude Samuel. What's up, my man? What's up, brother? Who do you guys got tomorrow with Eubank and versus Ben? Ooh, man. John and I are gonna have to talk about that. But man, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's gonna be a good fight. I mean, Eubank to me is probably. I think he's gonna probably end up being able to pull it off. But I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what John would be thinking. But I think we need to do a full breakdown of the fight after it happens and go from there. Let me see what else we got. Jude, speaking facts as always. Miss you on the Bellator commentary team. Yeah, man. I mean, I've been doing some other shows here and there. Kind of step away. Look, there's just not a lot of shows. I've been talking to some of even the UFC guys, even some of the other LFA guys, and the other shows that are out there. I've been talking to some of them and the analysts, and they're like, man, it's tough times right now, and just in the sport of MMA, there's not a lot of smaller promotions, whether it's Fury, whether it's Titan, and there's what other shows are there? LFA, obviously, you've got Baroka. That's another great show. You've got shows that are out there, but there's just not enough activity. The business right now is tough. Hosa Josh, I've watched Weighing In since it started. I love you and John, Dallas native also, so it would be awesome to meet you someday. Hey, would love to. I'm more in the North Dallas area, so I'm like in that Frisco, Prosper, Salina / like McKinney area kind of thing. Like I'm up in that way. So, but I'm in Dallas quite a bit, especially when the Stars are playing. So the Dallas Stars, I'm down that way quite a bit. So, yeah, man. I don't know. Follow me on social media and hit me up through there, and probably be easier to coordinate something if we're out that way. I would love to meet you, by the way. All right, let's go ahead and see. Mark Benoit. What's up, guys? I only have a minute right now because I was a college exam, but but I've been listening to you guys for about 5 years now. Love what you guys do. Keep crushing it. I appreciate you guys. Please share our content everywhere. If you guys have clips you guys want to clip and snippet and tag me in and collab with me on, I'd appreciate it if you know any of this stuff. So go ahead, man. Go ahead and snip it, clip it, and tag me in it, and I'll go ahead and repost it. Alec Johnson. Hey, Josh. We know Habib's biggest weakness outside the cage was chocolate tiramisu. No, his biggest weakness outside the cage was Coca-Cola. Did you have any hard times to say no to cravings? Yeah, my cravings was the same thing. I was a soda person, and I still kind of am a little bit. I didn't stop drinking soda until about 4 weeks before the fight. Everything else, I was always kind of an always clean eater, and I always ate just chicken and rice, chicken and vegetables. I kind of limited my steak intake during that time. Maybe once a week if I had that. Ate a lot of fish. And I fucking hate fish. fish was never my thing, man. But orange roughy I enjoyed with asparagus. I loved trout, but it was hard to find good trout, and I wasn't great at making trout. Trout to me is a little bit more of a different type of fish the way you cook it. Salmon super easy to cook. Halibut super easy to cook. Sea bass. Sea bass was very bland. I loved sea bass, but I loved it more with like a teriyaki or a miso kind of sauce. And you really can't have that during camps because it makes you just kind of hold the water and just kind of made me feel a little puffy in the skin. So, but no, I would say it was always soda. Always soda. And I didn't have a problem drinking soda up until like 4 weeks out because I was always working out. So, with drinks and liquids, you just sweat it right out pretty quickly. What was some of the things like I know I used to drink alcohol, and when drinking alcohol, I always made sure I cut that out 8 weeks out. No matter what, I cut it out. Unless we were doing like if there was an event we were at, like a wedding or something, I'd cheers and you'd have a glass of champagne or something, for someone's special event. But outside of that, no, I didn't really have any other problems cutting out stuff. Lazy bit, hindsight's 50-50. Absolutely, hindsight is 50-50. I'm glad that we all agree on that. Mr. 509, thoughts on Tuivasa, weight over 300 pounds and being balls deep into the cannabis industry. Does he still have the mentality to fight, or do you think he's done? I think he's got the mentality. He's a dog. I mean, like, he loves to fight. I think that I never thought he'd be the champion, but I was always rooting for him to get to the title and potentially be the champion because he's so much fun. But yeah, I think that was pretty much. I think he's kind of ran his course. Guys have figured him out, and he's been a little shoddy, and so. But I think he's great for the sport, man. He's great. I'm gonna hate to see him go, but I think him getting into the cannabis and being over 300 pounds. I mean, did anyone ever assume that he was up? I always thought he was always over 300 pounds. So I never thought he was under 300 pounds. And the fact that I'm hearing it now, I'm like, okay, it just makes sense. But the cannabis thing doesn't surprise me. Nothing surprises me these days. I think pretty much, I would say probably 70% of your fighters smoke weed. They'd rather do that than do Vicodin and Oxycontin. If they can smoke some weed, melt into their bed and fall asleep and get a good night's sleep, wake up and feel a little bit more refreshed versus taking a Vicodin or a Oxy and waking up going, fuck, man, like I feel like shit, but I gotta go train and just you're all fucked up. So yeah. We're gonna take two more if you have two more there, Dave, or is that good? Okay. We go ahead and jump on here for you guys. Take a look at it. Anyone watching can see that you're watching too. I know I'm watching, but I have to watch because that's where we're getting the questions from. So I gotta watch, buddy. I didn't get that. Let me go ahead and see. I think you know what? Let's see. Drop your questions here. Hey guys, I'm enjoying this, and we're gonna try to do this on a regular basis. I don't know how often. I want to try to maybe set a time. What is today? Friday. I know we have like Carlos Pratis and Ian Gary tomorrow. I'm looking forward to seeing that fight. John and I will give you guys a full breakdown Sunday morning. So we'll go ahead and film tomorrow night and give you guys a full breakdown by Sunday morning. So make sure you guys tune into our show. We were basically the first show that I'm aware of that dropped our shows on Sunday, and now everyone does it. So make sure you guys stay loyal to the originals, the OGs. All right, and hit the subscribe button, like us. Also, we offer the memberships, $4.99 memberships and giveaways, $1.99 memberships. Basically, put your questions and stuff at the top of the prime. So when we do our Tuesday night lives, 9:30 Eastern time on Tuesday night lives, we go every Tuesday night, 9:30 Eastern time. We go live, so you guys can jump in and ask questions there as well. So we're gonna be having some fun with these live chats, and I'm gonna be jumping on and doing them. And hopefully getting John to come on and do some stuff too with you guys as well. Some more one-on-one. So you guys can ask questions about everything. Doesn't have to be about me, it could be about the sport, it could be about media, it could be about anything. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this and hoping to do it again. So Dave, is there anything else, bud? All right, that's gonna wrap us, man. And thank you guys. I appreciate you guys and looking forward to doing it again. See you guys next time.